Saludos and salutations, Broncos Country, and welcome to another exciting episode of Broncos Talk. Today, we are going to highlight all the action that has come forth to us on a Wednesday, the 28th of August. Guys, we have an action-packed show for you guys today. We're going to talk about the 53-man roster. We're going to talk about that really awesome victory that the Broncos got over the Cardinals to end the preseason, what it could possibly mean going into the regular season. And also, we're going to look at the 53-man roster, and we're also going to look at the practice man squad availability, or I should say what is filled up. And we're also going to talk about maybe, if there's time, going to go look forward into the upcoming game with Seattle. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go on Broncos Talk. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And as you guys can see, I am flying solo tonight. Unfortunately, my co-host, Ty, the fantasy guy, he's going to try his best to join us tonight. He is having some technical difficulties. So hopefully he can stop by. If not, I will be your host tonight. So hopefully you don't mind seeing this face for those of you with the ability to see me right now. Are okay with it for having to see it for the next 60 such minutes or so. But anyways, guys, let's get down to business. But actually, before we do any of that, let's see if there's anybody here in the comments. Not yet, but they will definitely be here soon. I think I'm a little bit early. You you ever have that feeling where you just kind of jump up ahead and you don't really know like what's going on? Because I'm kind of having that right now. But anyways, guys, let's get some stuff out of the way before we do continue on to today's show. For those of you that are here for the very first time, please make sure you like and subscribe the button for the Orange and Blue Network. Subscribe, share it anywhere you guys are available to. If you're listening to us after the fact, please make sure 5-star reviews for Broncos Talk and comment and like us on Facebook. Here are all of our social plugs right here for the Orange and Blue Network, and also in partnership with the Mile High Roundtable. So make sure you guys subscribe and share, comment, and like all of their pages and shows. It is so great to be able to say, being able to live stream on both networks at the very same time. I'm telling you guys, it is one of the best feelings in the world. And also, today's show is brought to you by Dubby. So for those of you guys, just real quick, Dubby was formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. Their formula contains vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented NeuroFactor formula. It has no calories, no sugar, no maltodextrin. I've been working on that all day, I swear. No fillers and no artificial colors. So, guys, make sure you go and get yourself some Dubby. And once again, thank you so much for being a sponsor of Broncos Talk and for being a sponsor as well on the Orange and Blue Network. And if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, there's my Twitter handle right there at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always happy and down to talk about any and all things football. And if you'd like for any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. And here we go. KB82 saying, "What's up, brother? Kenny, what's up, my man? Good to see you. Welcome, man. It's always good to have fantasy fans." So if you guys if you hear anything in the background, that's my dog. You might be hearing him. Hopefully he doesn't bark. But if you hear him shake or rolling around behind me, that's who's there. So I know I've had him on the show before. I can't remember when. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. But let's get to what you guys are here for. Let's talk about first, before we get to today's topic show, which is the 53-man roster. Got to talk about that big victory that the Broncos had over the Cardinals. And you know what's really interesting here, guys, is the fact that, and I've been hearing it from people all week, is it's really much from people that kind of don't value preseason. And it's kind of, I, in a way, I understand it because I used to be one of those people a long time ago where I always felt that, preseason, what does it matter? The points don't count, the wins or losses don't count. But as I started to understand and love the sport even more and more as time went by, it made me realize that preseason is a very important aspect of football. And as every Broncos fan has seen in 2022, when none of your starters go out there and play, and you expect them to just go out there just because they're big names or big acquisitions, that all the pieces are going to fall into place and everything's going to be all hunky-dory, so to speak. And as we saw in that season, that wasn't the case. Quite the opposite, everything went to shit. So I think that the Broncos have had one of their strongest preseasons in a while. I mean, for all 3 games, they were up 20 to 30 points, if I'm not mistaken, possibly 30 points in each one of those games. And these were all the backups. So, like the second and third stringers, there are teams out there that barely flirted with 20 plus points or more. So, and the really crazy thing is that we all wanted almost every single player that we saw out there to make, have a spot on the roster. But unfortunately, that's not how the NFL works. And they had to cut it down to 53 people. So there were cuts that were going to have to be made. Everybody in Broncos country had their favorites. We all had our players that we wanted to hopefully, cross our fingers, hope that they made it and carried on to making a spot on the team. And it wasn't the case, unfortunately. And I think the biggest casualty is it's Tim Patrick. I mean, people are going to be talking about Tim Patrick all season, especially every time when he makes a catch, when he makes a touchdown as a Lion. I was one of the people that was really, really high on Tim Patrick. I really loved what he brought to Denver. I thought that him and Cortland Sutton could possibly be what Demaryius Thomas, God rest his soul, and Emmanuel Sanders were for Peyton Manning. That's the connection that I saw out of those two, the 1-2 punch. And unfortunately, Tim Patrick was robbed of football for 2 straight seasons with those 2 injuries. And with the new regime coming in, 1 year we had new management, and then the next year we had a new head coach in Sean Payton. They pretty much made it known that they didn't care how much money the Waltons were paying you or who you were as a Sean Payton. If Sean Payton didn't want you on the team, regardless of your stature, your name, how much money you made, you were freaking gone, So that's where I felt that Tim Patrick was kind of like his back was against the wall in terms of trying to make the team. Now, that one touchdown he had, I thought was fantastic. I thought it was glorious. I thought that would be enough to show, hey, I can be a guy here. I can be me. But I don't know if the Broncos themselves didn't want to take another chance at him possibly getting hurt again. If I wouldn't say casualty, because I don't even know what the number was, but it would have been worth it to keep him on. But everybody's been saying that the Broncos are in a bit of a youth movement, and wide receiver was one of the hardest positions for the Broncos to fill because there were so many talented wide receivers and not enough roster spots. So and before I continue, let's get here to the chat, guys. KB82 says, now that Patrick's gone, does Mims or Vale, I'm going to mispronounce his name, I swear, and I apologize ahead of time, get more playing time? Now, I would probably say, and we're going to talk about the lineup in just a little bit, but Vale, I'm just going to say Vale. Vale is probably going to be at the bottom of that depth chart, so I don't think we'll start seeing him until need be, in terms of they run plays where one of the 1s or the 2s need a breather, or knock on wood, the 1 or the 2 go down with an injury. The boss Johnny Baki saying, Broncos country, let's bow, baby. That's right, let's bow. Dreamweaver jumping in saying, what it do? What it do, Dreamweaver? Thank you so much for stopping by, my friend. Bob Skinner saying, hello, 610. How you doing, my friend? Says, you have a hell of a show. Good show going. Thank you so much, man. Love me some Timmy P. Thanks so much for the great words, Bob. I really appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure if my co-host Ty was here, he'd share that same sentiment. And we're all with you on that, man. Like, we all love and miss Timmy P. It's going to be really hard seeing him in a what is that, Honolulu blue uniform, going from catching passes from Bo Nix to catching passes from Jared Goff. But all the best to him, man. I really do hope he puts on a hell of a show with Detroit. Dreamweaver says, Adon, what's the depth chart for the quarterbacks in your mind? This is kind of crazy. The fact that the Broncos kept all three quarterbacks, I thought was probably going to be the talk of the town. If my memory serves me right, I read that supposedly the Cleveland Browns have 4 quarterbacks on their on their 53-man roster. I don't know if that's true, but if that is absolutely flipping bananas, man. Like 4? That's insane. But I still think, and I'm probably going to keep saying this or thinking this up until kickoff next Thursday, that somewhere along the line, there's going to be a trade to Minnesota. Somebody's going to trade their quarterback. Sorry if that's wrong. Somebody's going to trade their quarterback to Minnesota because Minnesota needs a quarterback. They have to stay somewhat in contention since they lost their rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams and the Bears are definitely going to make some noise. Jared Goff and the Lions are really going to be pushing back to go back to the NFC Championship and even to a Super Bowl. And Jordan Love and the Packers are definitely not going to sit back and watch things and play be backseat drivers or whatever. So the Vikings are going to have to want to try to stay in contention. So I have a feeling, and I wouldn't be surprised if this happens, if the Broncos if they were to trade one of those two, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this last week, so I'm just going to reiterate it, that if they trade probably Jarrett Stidham, because I think out of him or Zach Wilson, I think Jarrett Stidham gives them a better shot at possibly winning or being in somewhat a contention in the NFC North. But I'd be surprised if it was Zach Wilson, to be honest with you, but I don't think so. There's something that Sean Payton sees in Zach Wilson that he absolutely loves. I don't know for the life of me what the frick it is that made him want to trade for him. But I will give Zach Wilson his flowers. He definitely put on a pretty good show this past Sunday against the Cardinals. Be it was against second and third stringers, he went out there and he won that quarterback. I think he won that QB2 job. But don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if that quarterback 2 spot becomes a bit of a carousel, or musical chairs rather, where it's either Stidham or Zach Wilson. As long as they're Broncos, they kind of keep fighting for that position spot. KB82 also jumps in and says, it's sad that Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick trio didn't work. I had such high hopes. What could have been? You know what? I really did too. And I mentioned it to somebody today. I think it was at work. I think that the thing that pisses me off so much about Jerry Jeudy is the fact that the hype that the Broncos created around him. We thought that Jerry Jeudy was going to be the guy to take the Broncos to the offense to the next level. I remember those cut videos we saw, those training videos he did. Like, it was so freaking amazing, And the Jeudy video that stands out to me the most, and don't get me wrong, I love Jerry Jeudy even still. I really do hope he does well in Cleveland. But the one video that stands out to me the most about Jerry Jeudy is, or the moment was, it was against the Chargers, and Drew Lock threw, like, he threw 3 big passes to him, and Jerry Jeudy dropped all 3 of them. Like, hit him dead in the chest, in the hands, and just dropped it. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb over at Dallas was doing backflips and setting NFL records probably, and Cowboys records maybe, just looking like the better pick out of that class. So that to me has always rubbed me the wrong way about Jerry Jeudy. And you could say a lot of things about it. You can say it was the offense, the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, and it's probably true. Maybe it was, But when the ball hits you in the hands and you're a wide receiver and it either goes through your hands or you bobble and you don't catch it, that's a lot on you. They pay you a lot of money to catch the ball, so catch the freaking ball. you know. Johnny also jumps in and says the cap hit for Timmy P was only about 1.2 million, which isn't too bad. It just ended up being a "what have you done for me lately" situation. Again, I totally agree. That comes back to what I said earlier. This whole Broncos youth movement could be, I don't know if it was the media that spun it, if it was Sean Payton that spun it, or who, but it kind of makes sense. Even though I hope this is, news to Cortland Sutton out there that regardless of how much he's loved in Denver, if you could be next on the trading block if the Broncos need or want you gone, doesn't matter how amazing catches you make or whatever. If Timmy P can catch a ride out of Denver, so can anybody wearing an orange and blue jersey. It's that simple. KB82 says, I saw Johnny buying a Broncos jersey. He took the price tag off a Russell Wilson jersey and put it on a Bo Nix jersey, and they ended up paying him. Oh, Johnny, I'm gonna need you to clear that up for me. Did that really happen? Get out of here. Shy Vargas, thank you so much for joining in, my friend. He says, what do you think about the 53-man roster? We are definitely going to talk about it in just a second. Just want to reiterate to all of those that are just joining us. Unfortunately, Ty Fly, the fantasy guy, is unable to join us tonight. He is dealing with some weather issues out where he lives. We here in Chicago just had a really bad storm yesterday, and I'm really glad it was yesterday, not today, because there was a good chance that thankfully we didn't lose power, but the wind was blowing really hard and it was raining cats and dogs. So I don't know if that's the same storm system he got. I hope he's well and everything comes out okay. But if he is not able to join us at any time during this telecast tonight, he will definitely be back next week for next week's show. Which also, I want to clarify something. I know last week I said that this week we were going to talk about the schedule predictions for the Broncos, but since Ty is not here today, we are definitely going to be talking about that next episode. So I do apologize. I hope I didn't give anybody any false hope, but our NFL Broncos schedule predictions, win-loss predictions episode is going to be next week. And we're also going to look forward to the Broncos coming up against Seattle. And we'll talk about it a little bit today if we have time. Dreamweaver says, Jerry might have been my least favorite Bronco next to Melvin Gordon. Not Melvin Gordon. It's hard to talk about Melvin Gordon now because if you did, he'd just pull up his hand. He'd just hold up his hand and show his freaking Super Bowl ring, which just pisses me off, man. But the man got a ring, What can you say? Bob Skinner jumps back in. He says, Coach wanted to take a shot at P.O. in New York. You'll have to kind of refresh my memory. Unfortunately, I don't understand. But anyways, guys, let's while I kind of figure out what Bob's talking about, let's talk about the offense. I know I've been dilly-dallying a little bit too much here. So let's talk about the offense here. Now, on quarterback, we're going to talk about each position. If you guys want to jump in, if you're watching us live, please make sure to hit your comments. I'm going to try to read the comments and give my predictions as much as we go along. If I do miss your comment, I'm really sorry. It's not on purpose. This is the first time I've actually ever flown solo, so I'm actually trying to do the best that I can. So I hope you guys can bear with me. Audio listeners, if you're listening to us after the fact, I'm going to try to go over every position as best as I can. And even though you can't physically see what I'm looking at or the comments, I hope you guys are following along. And again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Any questions or comments about my predictions, you can always hit me up at a 6'10" Mexican on X/Twitter. Let's talk about it. So let's start with quarterback. The Broncos kept 3. They kept Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham, and Bo Nix, with Bo Nix being the obvious one. He's going to be the starter for the team. Now, the interesting thing is, guys, is that we just found out before we went live on the air today that the Steelers are going to start Russell Wilson on Sunday, not this Sunday, but when week 1 starts. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he does, because there's a good chance that if Russell Wilson flops and they have to switch to Justin Fields, that maybe Russell doesn't start week 2 against Denver. And then everybody's going to be, that's the game that everybody wants to see, Broncos fan or not. Russell Wilson versus his old team, just like we all wanted to see Russell Wilson against his old team 2 years ago when the Broncos went to Seattle. So, but again, I'm personally surprised that the Broncos kept Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. Maybe a part of me wants to think that they were maybe trying to hold out, excuse me, to see a holdout if anybody wanted to trade for either one of those quarterbacks, more than likely Jarrett Stidham, and just to get some cap space back from him, but maybe nobody bit. So that's what I think happened in that regard. Zach Wilson, again, I'm trying to figure out what it is. If I could have dinner with Sean Payton one day, that'd be my first question: is why Zach Wilson? like why? Well, I mean, you could have had any of the other quarterbacks that went to all of the teams. Why Zach freaking Wilson? Like, what is it in him that you see that makes you say, I can fix this guy, or I want that guy? Maybe he can fix him. I saw a video earlier that they were talking about just how shitty of a team the Jets were last year, or how they just weren't using Zach Wilson to his full potential. And while Zach Wilson has shown flashes, there have been a couple times. There was one play yesterday where I really he did this thing where he kind of just threw off his back foot as he was going down, and that really I really hate when players do that, because it just that never ends up well. Running backs, we're going to move to Javonte, Audric Esteem. I'm sorry if I mispronounce anybody's last name. I do apologize. It's not on purpose. I'm Mexican, so that's my excuse. Jaleel McLaughlin and Blake Watson. Blake Watson is a player that not too many people thought would make the roster. I'm surprised the Broncos themselves went with 4 running backs, to be honest with you. I thought they would go with 3, and I thought they would kind of upload more, go with 6 wide receivers instead. But maybe it's just me. But I just it's going to be crazy. Robert Merrick's jumping in. He says, "What's up, bro? Way to bro handle this stuff solo. I have faith again." Robert, thank you so much for joining in, my friend. It is such a pleasure to see you. So please grab your popcorn and your beer, drink whatever it is you guys are drinking. Sit back and relax. But this running back, I think that the Sean Payton is going to do a lot of rotations for running back. Javonte Williams, I don't want to say he took a step back, but he needs to take a step forward this year in terms of showing up, because if either one of these other 3 guys, especially Jaleel McLaughlin, has been a fire. He's been a firecracker, man. He's been really, really good. I remember I saw him when they were here in Chicago, and that first touchdown that Russell Wilson, I don't know if he threw or handed off, but he was the one that initially got the Broncos their first score in that game, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a name to watch out for, and I wouldn't be surprised, and this is a hot take, I wouldn't be surprised if Jaleel took the number 1 spot away from Javonte. I really wouldn't be surprised. I saw more people that I've heard draft Jaleel McLaughlin in fantasy than I did Javonte Williams, honest to God. Just for the simple fact that he's either going to, people have him on their bench for just in case. Not for if Javonte gets hurt, but for the simple fact that Jaleel just goes off, Wide receiver, this is the part where we're probably going to struggle here, folks. Josh Reynolds, Courtland Sutton, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims Jr., and Devon Vell. I'm just going to say Vell. This part still surprised me. If you guys watch Orange and Blue Network like I do, they talked about it on the Nothing Rhymes With podcast show yesterday with Jay, Johnny, and Isaiah, and they pretty much kind of went over this entire thing. So if you've seen it and you saw that show, you might hear me reiterate some of the exact same sentiments that they spoke of yesterday. But it's really hard to say, because I feel like everybody in Broncos country is talking about it. Every single podcast show I have seen since the news broke out that the Broncos were not going to keep Tim Patrick has been about freaking Tim Patrick, and how the Broncos are making the wrong choice and not keeping him. Now, I will say those 5 right there are amazing wide receivers, all 5 of them. Josh Reynolds, I'm still holding you to that ball going in between your hands in that, that Colts game. I you need to do better, man. You need to freaking do better. Look at me talking to him like he watches this show. uh, but in a way, it's almost like the Lions and the Broncos themselves just kind of switch wide receivers, you know. But Troy Franklin, I know that the Broncos just drafted him, so there was no way that they were going to cut him. But he needs to ball the flip out. He just needs to ball out. Whatever those highlight videos we saw of him and Bo Nix in Oregon, that's what we need to see out of Troy Franklin this year. Because if he does not show signs of improvement and it just starts to look like he was just a waste of a roster spot, like people are going to come hammering down on him and saying, hey, that could have been Tim flipping Patrick out there on the field, lining up with Cortland and Josh, you know? So, like, there's a lot of pressure on him. Devon Bell, his hype kind of died down ever since he made that OBJ-like catch in training camp. So he's another person that can just kind of steal the limelight from Troy. So I expect him and Troy to kind of have a battle out there to see who can be the best. In this case, I think those guys would be fighting for a number 4 spot, to be honest with you. Mims and Josh Reynolds. It doesn't matter which one of those you name. Say you name 2 or 3. I imagine Sean Payton just rotates those guys around. And Cortland Sutton is probably going to be your wide receiver number 1. I will say for Sutton, he did have a lot of drop passes last year. So hopefully, at least for me, so I really do hope he cleans that up. He did have some freaking like amazing catches. Those circus catches he made from Russell Wilson, and almost every one of those catches made the top NFL top 100 highlights video. I think I talked about that on the show before. If you guys haven't seen it, go and watch it. It's on their YouTube channel. It's all the best highlights from the 2023 season. And a lot of the Broncos, I think I talked about it. Yeah, there's like 8 highlights of the Broncos on there. All positive, thank God. There's only one where the Broncos, and it wasn't any of the Miami Dolphins games. Thank God. It's a miracle none of those plays made the top 100. So whoever made that list, thank you so much. Dreamweaver jumping in here saying he spoke with Andrew Mason last night and he said Williams could absolutely be a trade deadline candidate. To be honest with you guys, everybody on this list, whether you're offense, special teams, or defense, nobody's safe. If somebody else comes on this team and shows you up, especially if they're a waiver wire pickup or trade pickup or whatever, Sean Payton and the management have literally said, we want to win. And these guys are going to do whatever it takes to win. And if you don't believe me, Russell Wilson is going to be suiting up for the Steelers, starting quarterback, and the Broncos are paying him. I'm so tired of saying that number. I'm not even going to say it anymore. But they're paying him a buttload of flipping money to go out there and win games for another freaking team. It's mind-boggling. Oh man. KB82 jumps in and says, I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Hunter Renfrow or kick the tires on Michael Thomas. There's somebody in my fantasy league that calls Michael Thomas Slant Thomas because like all he does is run slants, or those are his better picks. I forgot what he said, but the fact that he called him Slant Thomas just is kind of embedded in my brain now. Hunter Renfrow, I know he's been kind of, I don't want to say Wes Welker-ish for Denver, but he's been kind of a Raiders faithful for a long time. But as I will say, as we jump over here to the tight ends, Nate Atkins, Greg Dulcich, Adam Troutman, and Lucas Krull made the 53-man roster. And also, the Broncos just today, before this show went on the air, they signed Donald Parham Jr. from coming from the Chargers. So I really like that signing. For some reason, him and Greg Dulcich are going to make such a great a team, part of this team, especially with Troutman. I don't know all that much about Nate Atkins, to be honest with you guys. So I can't really evaluate his play. Lucas Krull, I'm surprised made this team. I thought he was going to be on the bubble after that Colts game. But I just don't know how I feel about him. I feel like I need to see more out of Krull. I know he was a Russell Wilson favorite last year, and kind of underrated, it almost seemed like. Excuse me. But I just think that it was a great signing by the Broncos to bring in Donald Parham. I feel like he's going to flourish with this offense. Whatever he was trying to do out with the Chargers, it obviously wasn't working. I'm surprised that they just let him go like that. I thought that if he was going to be gone from the team, I thought they would have at least traded him. So but I think that's a big signing. I know I remember seeing Parham's name so many times when we played against the Chargers last year and for the last year or so, and he was always making all these crazy catches for the Chargers when he was with them. So we need a big man as a tight end, and if I'm not mistaken, Parham is 6'3", and he's probably going to make Greg Dulcich look kind of like when I stand against next to other people. Maybe not 6'10" per se, but there's really going to be a high difference in there somewhere. But I'm really excited because I was really worried about the tight end room before the Parham signing, because Greg Dulcich, he's one of those players that I also want to see more from. And if he gets hurt again, it's kind of like he probably could be gone before the end of the season if they find, I don't know. I can't really see the Broncos trading somebody that gets hurt a lot, but he probably wouldn't make the team next year if he gets hurt again, or if he spends more time on the bench injured than he does on the field playing. And to be honest with you, have we actually seen an entire season of Greg Dulcich? Because I don't, maybe 2022, but through half of that season, it didn't really matter because the Broncos were just playing so bad offensively that it was just kind of, offensive line. They kept Alex Forsyth, Luke Wattenberg, Alex Palczewski. I'm going to think it says Palczewski, Mike McGlinchey, Garrett Bowles, Frank Crum, Ben Powers, Quinn Miners, and Matt Pert. Now, Frank Crum was a guy that I didn't even want him to ride back with the team after this past week, because he just he went from a really great game against Indianapolis, and then he really struggled against Arizona's second, third stringers. So I kind of feel like he took a big step backwards, and not in the good way. So I'm really surprised that Frank Crum made the team. I know he's playing as a secondary to the offensive line position, but I don't think that was a great signing, to be honest with you. They could have cut him, and they could have got anybody else for that position from the waiver wire. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of better players out there than Frank Crum. But again, there's something that Sean Payton sees in this guy that is making him say, hey, this is the guy I want to be with, and this is the guy that's going to run my offense. So hopefully it doesn't come to him having to sub in for anybody injured. This is the one time I wish you can turn off injuries like you can in Madden. But unfortunately, no. He's on the team. Mike McGlinchey, this is the guy that I'm really going to be looking at a lot this year. And I say that just for the simple fact, Johnny, if I could say, you could say Pacheski, right? But Vele eludes you. Come on, man. Hey, I work with a lot of great Polish people at my job. So I know a very little bit of Polish. I know my dzień dobry, and I know my yashimash and dobrze and do widzenia, which means goodbye. So I know a little bit of Polish because I say it almost every freaking day. So it's embedded in here. Vele, I guess I got to see him more on the field so I know how to pronounce his name. But again, I did apologize before I started today's show, and I said, hey, if I mispronounce everybody's last name, it's not on me. It's my lemonade. It's making me wonky. But going back to Mike McGlinchey, right tackle has been such a big problem for the Broncos for God knows how many flipping years. And all the money that they're paying Mike, we need to see some improvement there. He was, I don't want to say he was the better acquisition, but the Broncos did beat the Bears because the Bears wanted to get McGlinchey when he left San Francisco. Uh, you know what was the one play that really worried me about McGlinchey, and it was the one play. It was in the playoffs, and I think who the frick was it? I think it was Micah Parsons who literally flipped McGlinchey on his ass. And I was like, wow, that is freaking insane. Of course, Micah Parsons isn't human anyway, but still, to flip a lineman like him on his ass, especially a tackle, was just crazy. And then the Broncos went and signed him. So that was kind of like the first. This is doing yeah. I don't know, but they're paying him a ton of money, so we need to see some better improvement out of him. Garrett Bowles, the only comment I have for Garrett Bowles is we do not need to see the Garrett Bowles of old before the contract signing, because we did kind of get a glimpse of it. He did get flagged a little bit too much for my liking. In I don't think it was week 2 of the preseason because none of the starters played last week. So hopefully he doesn't regress and turn into that Garrett Bowles. So I have no powers with Ben. No powers, no problems with Ben Powers and Quinn Miners. I mean, the man is a beast. He just got a big contract this year. So congratulations to Miners. I really do hope he doesn't regress. And I really do hope that his offensive line, can put in the work and stuff. Wattenberg, I don't hate him. And I know he's the best available that the Broncos could get probably. But I wouldn't be shocked, and this is another hot take, if the Broncos get hot, that they go out and they take a chance on us. I don't want to say a better center, but a more likable one that fits into the Sean Payton, a one that gives them a better chance, I want to say. And Luke probably gets kicked back to, second string. So that's just a hot take. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It can, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does. So, and now let's talk about the defense. If there's anything that I missed, I do apologize, guys. Spence coming in more seasoned center. I know that sounded wrong. I guess I meant to say more experienced center, but I will give Wattenberg his dues. He did play really good in the preseason, so I hope that continues. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. Okay, because we got so used to Lloyd Cushenberry, and we really were enjoying seeing him improved. I didn't think that he was going to leave for another team. I thought that the Broncos were going to keep him, but they let him walk. He went to Carolina. We're going to see him at the end of October when the Panthers come to Denver. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares up against his old teammates in October. So, and also Spence said 4 tight ends. Isn't that high for this offense? I mean, it could be. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of shift it back down to 3 and they kick one of those other tight ends. Either they cut him or they sign him to the practice squad. But I don't think so, because I think all the slots for practice squad are filled up. Or maybe they just keep it. See, they roll with it. See what they can do with 4 tight ends. But yeah. And Dreamweaver says, well, really, it's 5 tight ends now. Yeah, he's right. Technically, it is 5 tight ends. Oh, man, that number is going to fluctuate so much between now and next Sunday, guys. So nothing set in stone. Anything can change. Anything can happen. Just remember that it's that simple. But the safety on defense, PJ Locke, Brandon Jones, Devon Key, JL Skinner, and Keydron. I hope I'm saying that right. Keydron Smith. Now, this safety, when I heard that Kareem Jackson got cut by the Bills, what was it? I don't know if it was yesterday or today, but I read it on X or Twitter. I really thought that I was like, man, don't get me wrong. I think Kareem is cool. I think he's a nice guy, but I really was like, please don't bring him back to Denver because I just don't like, I can't deal with another Kareem Jackson knocking somebody's block off and the suspension and all that unnecessary drama, you know. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson just calls it a career if he can't get a job or not a job, but another starting position with a team somewhere this season. It could happen. But um, as far as this one, the depth on safety worries me. Don't get me wrong. I still have faith in PJ Lock. Brandon Jones is coming from Miami. He's dealing, if I'm not mistaken, with a hamstring injury. So hopefully he's good to go by week 1. But hamstrings have been a lingering issue for a lot of players here in Denver. You know, KJ Hamler, it limited him a whole lot when he was here for us. I don't remember a whole lot from Devin. I'm going to say Devin Key. I did see a couple good plays by Smith. JL Skinner last game was all over the field, so I'm not surprised that he made the team. So hopefully this safety team is solid because the second half of the Broncos schedule gets really tough. So this defense is definitely going to be put to the test in terms of you know, showing why they were picked to be number ones and dignifying themselves for being on this team. Outside linebacker, we got Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning, Nick Bonito, and Jonah Ellis. Jonah Ellis is definitely the Cinderella story of this 4-man group. I really thought they were going to go with 5. I'm surprised they only went with 4. I don't know why, but usually offensive linebackers and maybe even inside are pretty much what Denver is really good at making. They have made some of the bigger and better names at inside and outside linebackers. So I'm surprised they only went with 4. But Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning, I mean, I do want to see more from Browning. I do kind of feel he kind of hit a bit of a slope at the end of last season, but that was probably just for the simple fact that the Broncos just, I don't know. Ever since the Broncos lost that Texans game, they lost a lot of momentum. Not just momentum, but just kind of like the spirit, you know. And then they went into that Patriots game, and I don't even want to relive that. It was just terrible. It was bad. It was a bad day at the office all the way around. But Jonah Ellis, I really do hope shines, man, because he made a lot of noise this preseason, and he went unnoticed by a lot of people out there watching preseason. So hopefully he makes a lot of noise week 1, and he reminds the NFL that, hey, he is here, and he is here to play. And having Cooper, Browning, and Bonito with him, man, they are gonna have a bunch of tackles, have a bad day at the office, my friends. It is gonna be that damn good. Inside linebacker, we're gonna just hop over from cornerback. Justin Sternad, Alex Singleton, Cody Barton, and Lavelle Bailey. For some reason, I don't remember seeing Bailey during the preseason, or maybe I just can't remember off the top of my head. But Justin Sternad, that was a name I hadn't heard in a while up until the preseason started. So kind of glad to see him back on the team. Alex Singleton, always a pleasure seeing. Really missing seeing Honey Bear's name up here and the fact that he's also a Panther now. Cody Barton. Cody Barton has done really well for me in Madden. Let me tell you, that man has laid so many people out on their ass. And I'm not a good Madden player, but I must be pushing the right buttons because that man can definitely do it. Johnny Baki's over here telling me that Bailey is the one that got that pick 6 for 96 yards in the preseason. That's right. That is Lavelle Bailey. Okay, I couldn't think of his name. Thank you so much. I didn't want to say anything because I thought it was it was Smith. That's who I thought it was. But Smith got the 2 interceptions, but they weren't pick 6s. They were just taken back. Okay. So I did hear him. Thank you so much for the refresher, Johnny. You have to forgive me. At my age, I forget a lot of shit. I am getting old. Cornerbacks, we got Tremon Smith. We got PS2, of course. Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, Chris Abrams-Drain, and Levi Wallace. Stephen Ash says last placed roster. Huh. If you don't mind reiterating what you mean by that, Stephen, I'd appreciate it because I don't know what you mean by that. I'm a little slow. uh, but this is the only other part that also worries me is the opposite side of cornerback. Riley Moss did have a pretty good preseason, so it's he's got some big shoes to fill. And standing on the opposite side of PS2, Traymon Smith. I hope I'm not confusing him with Keidron Smith. Oh, first place roster. Oh, okay, that's what he meant. I'm guessing that's what he meant, and it's not just like a Raiders fan or something talking smack. uh, But Jaquan McMillan also had a pretty good season. Chris Abrams, Drain, and even Levi Wallace. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was gonna say I don't see Damari Mathis's name up here, but I think he got injured if I'm not mistaken. And I think he got put in the pup list. So he's gone for what is it, 4 weeks? Somebody in the chat hopefully can correct me on that. Hope I'm not wrong, but this corner, this secondary is definitely crucial because they're the ones that are going to decide whether Vance Joseph makes it all the way to the end of the season with as a DC. And I got to give credit where credit is due. And somebody said this. I don't know if it was on this show or before I read it somewhere or heard it. Vance Joseph as a defensive coordinator is so much flipping better than as a head coach. So uh, the fact that he was able to turn that team around, week 4, whenever it was when they came to Chicago, and the Bears, the Broncos went in on a winning streak, and unfortunately it got skidded to an end in Houston. But the fact that Vance Joseph was able to do what he did in the preseason with just the second and third stringers was amazing enough. They held Green Bay to only 2 points. It should have been a shutout, but we all know what happened there. And he even stuck it to his old team of Arizona. He got one of their freaking quarterbacks cut for the team. Who was it? Desmond Ridder. And I don't even think he played all but one quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And the one quarterback that was marching down the field threw the 96-yard pick six in the finale. So he definitely made it a really bad day in the office for those Cardinals, man. But this defense is definitely going to be put to the test. Like I said earlier, second half of the schedule for the Broncos is really tough. I think their best, probably their first really hard challenge is going to be Tampa Bay. That's just another hot take. And we're going to talk about it more next week's show in terms of win-loss predictions. But I definitely think that their first hard test is going to be against Baker Mayfield and those Bucs, man, because they were making some noise, man. And now that that Baker's definitely going to be the number one and leading that team, he is definitely going to make it a tough day for anybody on defense all season. So they are not to be taken anywhere lightly. So I definitely think that the cornerbacks are going to be tested. It's going to be their first one of the season. But I mean, Patrick Surtain II, I mean, who doesn't love PS2 and what he can do for this team, And who's ever lined up either one of those guys, I think Riley Moss, if I had to guess, it's probably him and either McMillan are probably, in my personal opinion, the best for cornerback 2. Like if they were, you could say they are almost tied because they both had really good preseasons. And then, Wallace and Abrams and even Smith are more likely going to play the second, third, and just the backups in terms of that. But if I can just get some confidence and just some showing out of the opposite side of Patrick Surtain, then I think the Broncos will be fine on defense. But it's that other side that Surtain's not on that worries me in terms of coverage and giving up the big plays and whatnot. Defensive line, we got DJ Jones, Jordan Jackson, Ioma Uwazuriki. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Malcolm Roach, John Franklin Myers, and Zach Allen. You can't tell me that Zach Allen didn't want to get his ass in that game on Sunday and and play against his old team. I'm pretty sure he really wanted to. So I would like to believe he was a little bit disappointed when the coach told him like, "Hey, no starters play this week. Uh, we'll see you in Seattle, big man." And again, Zach Allen is one of my favorite players in Madden, and every time he gets a sack, it's always brings a smile to my face, especially when it's him. Malcolm Roach, the man is a run stopper, and he is definitely what the Broncos needed on that defensive line. DJ Jones, I read somewhere that somebody wanted DJ Jones gone. Not because he's terrible, but just for the simple fact that the Broncos could get, trade capital for him or draft picks. So I kind of feel like Jones hasn't really been the player that they were expecting him to be coming from San Francisco. What was it, like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken? So, and now with Ioma back, I mean, he could definitely be left behind, And if the Broncos just keep him as a secondary, as a rotational piece, then so be it. But I'd be really surprised if the Broncos traded DJ Jones. Again, nobody's safe from being traded, folks. So especially whether regardless of what your name is, unless your name is Bo Nix or PS2, those are probably the only two names where it's almost guaranteed that they'll be there till the end of the season at the most. John Franklin Myers, I was really expecting to see more from him during the preseason, but I can't even tell you if he played or not. I'm pretty sure he did, but I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure he did maybe a couple of drives, but not an entire game. But I still think that he was a really good acquisition from the Jets because the Jets have a pretty solid defensive line. I know because I also have them in my brother's league in Madden. So if you can't give them that too much time because eventually they will get to that quarterback. So I really do hope that the one thing that the defense does better this year is get to the freaking quarterback, because there was too many times last year with the opposing offenses had way too much time in the pocket, and the defense was just the pass rush was not getting there. And to be honest with you guys, that problem has been going on ever since Von Miller left Denver. Yes, we've gotten flashes from Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning and even Nick Bonito, but like I said, those were just kind of like flashes. When Von Miller was here, it doesn't matter who was on the opposite side. If you double team Von, the other guy was wide open to get to the quarterback or just, stop the run. Like the pass rush was there, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love Von. I'm really hoping he does great in Buffalo, but unfortunately, he's starting to get to that level where it's like, hey, this is as far as I go. Like, I'm pretty sure that once his time in Buffalo's done, that he's probably going to retire. But hey, if that does happen, he'll go out with currently 2 Super Bowl rings, trying to win a third. So that's in my Super Bowl MVP. I mean, you can't get better than that, right? So with that being said, let's jump over to the practice squad, which is something that a lot of people have been talking about. Denver signed 15 players to their practice squad as the team added running back Tyler Beatty, wide receiver Michael Bandy, fullback Mike Burton, Nick Gargulio, defensive end Matt Hannigan, wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey, defensive back Tanner McAllister, nose tackle Jordan Miller, quarterback Quentin Newsome, guard Will Sherman, wide receiver David Sills, cornerback Reese Taylor, guard Calvin Throckmorton, outside linebacker Dondre Tillman, and tight end Thomas Yasmin. The Broncos also received an international practice player exemption for Yasmin, which will allow Denver to feature 17 players on its practice squad. All 15 players competed with the Broncos during the preseason. So, if I can be honest with you guys, like I really thought Angelo Blackson was going to end up on the practice squad. So to me, that's the only signing that I was kind of surprised didn't make it back. I don't know if Blackson got picked up by another team, but I thought he did pretty good on the defensive. He was defensive line. So I'm surprised that he didn't make it back on the practice squad. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually got signed to another team, but uh, Michael, I'm just glad. See, the thing is, I'm so glad some of these names are here. Michael Bandy and Tyler Beatty, Lil Jordan Humphrey. I know he's been in and out of Denver ever since Sean Payton came to town so many times, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets elevated. But the thing that really worries me about these players is that they're susceptible to be picked up by another team. Especially like Humphrey and Beatty and Bandy. So Michael Bandy's kind of been a little bit of a Broncos favorite, low key. Even though we all knew he more likely wasn't going to make the team, but hopefully he sticks around and on the practice squad. Same thing with Tyler Beatty. Should things go another way and he gets elevated to the 53-man roster. And as far as Thomas Yasmin, I still haven't fully comprehended what that whole international practice player exemption thing is, but it gives the Broncos 17 players on their practice squad, so it sounds like an advantage of sorts. I don't know if it's like a huge advantage where it's like, everything's going to be okay now, but I really like to think that that's huge, at least for Denver. So all in all, guys, like the one thing I can tell you is that like I'm really excited about what we have in our 53-man roster. Granted, we talked about the whole Tim Patrick thing. It's going to really suck not having him as a Bronco anymore and just seeing him play somewhere else. But unfortunately, that's just how life is in the NFL, folks. It's not always going to be fair. Some people are still not over the whole Von Miller going to LA thing. I know when I hear about it, I still kind of get like, it was so long ago. It still hurts, you know? And Von Miller's still kind of like Peyton Manning. Von Miller still has orange and blue in his blood, man. Whenever something happens in Denver, like a remembrance or something, he always shares it. Whenever there's a highlight or whatever, he shares it on his Instagram. So that man is still orange and blue, even though he's wearing a Buffalo uniform or whatever uniform he wears. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And it's not just Denver that should fit. So I'm just trying to provide some relief, because like I'm not saying it was justified because I don't think it was. I really wish Sean Payton would have kept Tim Patrick. And you're going to hear that out of a whole ton of people. If you haven't heard it enough already, you're going to hear it from here probably till the end of freaking time. But if there's a youth movement going on, like they're so-called saying, then unfortunately, Tim Patrick wasn't a part of it. Maybe I'd like to think that it was probably because of his injury history, getting hurt back-to-back seasons, that the Broncos didn't want to risk him, if he gets hurt again and he goes on the PUP list and it doesn't take, like, they didn't want to go through all that again. That's my take on it. I could be wrong. And maybe Sean Payton is really high on Vele. I said it right this time. I said Vele. on Vele or Mims or Josh Reynolds. I mean, who knows? Nobody has any idea what Sean Payton what goes on in his head. But you have to ask yourself, if it helps fix the offense, and if the offense can't keep doing what they've been doing the last 3 weeks, but with the number ones and putting up points and keeping the Broncos in the game and in contention for a playoff spot, then, what's that old saying? You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, and trades are going to happen. And this is probably not even the worst trade because there's still 8 more weeks of trading until it's can't be done anymore for the rest of the season. So we could still be in store for some more crazy ass trades. Players to Denver if the Broncos get hot and they need to fill in some gaps to stay hot and relevant. Or if, knock on wood, shit hits the fan and the Broncos start being bad, and they start shipping out players for draft picks to, go back to the drawing board and rebuild. I mean, who knows at this point? I don't think it's going to be that bad because I have faith in Bo Nix. I really do. And if he wins, let me just say this, and this is another hot take. I've been spitting hot takes all damn day. If Bo Nix wins rookie offensive player of the year, it will surprise everybody except Broncos fans, because a lot of Broncos fans are expecting it. So, and I know, and it's going to be a tough class to try to win it in, because you got your Caleb Williams, you got your Jaden Daniels, there's a lot of players out there that are going to be in contention for offensive rookie player of the year, which it's always every year, mind you, in different positions, but it just cannot be done correctly. And what I mean by that is that it just can't be done. Well, shit, I lost my train of thought. Somebody tried to come in my room, and I was going to say, but let me just say that I really do hope he gets it, though, because I think that Bo Nix can be the guy that takes us into that next level of, contention, because obviously and I'm not going to say defending champs anymore, even though I just did, but I don't care. They got to contend with the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are going to come out with all cylinders firing. The Raiders are doing something. I don't know what it is, but they're doing something just like the Chargers are going to try to go out there without a number one wide receiver, at least I think so, down there in LA. So I don't know what it is, but I have faith in this team, and I hope you guys do too. And that's just with me saying it, because that's all we have right now. And again, this whole Tim Patrick thing is going to be hurting Broncos country all season, but we kind of have to learn to take that and just kind of push it to the side and just cheer the orange and blue, because I like to think that Tim Patrick is still orange and blue, just like Von Miller is being in another team, just like Peyton Manning is, and he won a championship in Denver and in Indianapolis, but everything he does is orange and blue. And some say, I've talked to Colts fans who think that, he's still spiteful for the whole thing that went down with him and the Colts in 2011 and them cutting him and sending him away. So maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. Who knows? But guys, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining me here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Again, I do apologize for my co-host, Ty, the fantasy guy. He was unable to make it tonight due to technical difficulties, but I guarantee you he will be here next week. Again, guys, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you like and subscribe here on the Orange and Blue Network. Subscribe, share, comment, like. I didn't do that right. I don't care. Get the word out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell on YouTube so you get live notifications on when any of our shows go live. Nothing rhymes with the Orange Squeeze, all that good stuff, guys, especially Broncos Talk. You guys get live notifications of when we go live, and that you don't miss a single second of it. And as always, we have a great partnership over at the MHRT Network. So make sure you give them a follow, subscribe, like, share, comment. Make sure you go and follow them. They have a lot of great shows out there. Shout out to my good friends over at MHRT, Mundungus and Glenn and Cameron Parker, who I was watching them yesterday, and I think it was like a year ago. If you haven't met Cameron Parker, if he puts on his shades, he looks a lot like Pitbull. Dale. And if you don't believe me, go watch him over at the Manly podcast over on the MHRT and tell him that I sent you. And if he's got a pair of sunglasses on, just tell him to put them on for a little bit, and you'll see what the frick I mean. Okay. And again, guys, if you're listening to us after the fact, please make sure you 5-star rating, thumbs up. If you want to hit me up on X/Twitter, I'm at a 6'10" Mexican. I'm always happy and down to talk about all things football, especially Broncos stuff. For any business inquiries, you can email at broncostalk2020@gmail.com. For any donations that are made through the Anchor program are always appreciated, folks. And again, thank you guys so much. And regardless of whether you're listening or watching live or after the fact, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for the well wishes. I know I probably said it one too many times, and I'll probably keep saying it again, but it is a pleasure to be able to sit here. And who knows, maybe this won't be the first or last time I'm sitting here by myself. It'll more than likely one day it'll just be you guys and Ty. But I have faith in Ty. I know he can do it if he had to fly the show solo, and it's not easy. But thank you guys so much for joining in and tuning in. And as always, thank you so much for your support, for you believing in Orange and Blue, for you guys in MHRT, wherever it is. As I say to you guys every show when I remember, because I don't write this shit down even though I'm supposed to. Continue to support any and all forms of Broncos media. Guys, my name is Adan Diaz. For Ty the Fly Guy, this has been Broncos Talk on the Orange and Blue Network in partnership with MHRT. And we will see you guys next week for the live schedule win-loss predictions for the Broncos. So make sure to don't miss it, all right? See you guys next week. And as always, later days.